그런데 여러분들이 그렇게 민감할 필요가 없잖아요. 효순이 미선이가
10년 전에 공포만을 주었을 뿐입니다. 성동질을 짓겠습니다, 여러분.
It's too late. We have waited for a long time. It is time to offer the real, serious, the sincere apology with his actions.
An outburst of anti-US feeling as students in Seoul take to the streets in protest. They're here in the name of two 13-year-old schoolgirls killed in June by an armoured vehicle driven by two US soldiers. The soldiers were acquitted last week, prompting an outcry from students who call the trials a sham. Currently, the US military has jurisdiction over its soldiers accused of crimes while on duty. This has bred contempt among many. The student says the not guilty verdict is unacceptable. If the US military court held a closed trial, then how can that be a fair trial, she asks. But the tension here is not just about the demands for a retrial in a South Korean court. Perceived as arrogant disregard for local jurisdiction, the case has unleashed wider frustrations with American presence here. "Let's drive out American troops" was one of the battle cries. There are 37,000 American soldiers based in South Korea. Its defense ministry has warned against stoking up anti-American sentiment, but little heed was being paid to official recommendations.
The Yangju highway incident occurred on June 13th, 2002. The U.S. military was driving a vehicle called the AVLB. It was an armored vehicle that carried a mobile bridge. It was on a training exercise, and unfortunately, they accidentally and unintentionally ran over the two South Korean middle school girls. Thoughts and prayers still go out to them and their families, and their names were Hsien, Hoson, and Shim Mi Sun. God bless you guys. God bless you ladies. You were taken way too early, and I'm sorry. My heart goes out to you. However, the U.S. military did not intentionally run over those two girls. There is some talk that they did, but I did a lot of research on this subject, and they did not intentionally run over those girls. It was miscommunication between the driver and an accident, and I've done lots of research, and let me go through all the points. Okay, point one, the Gyeonggi province assumed responsibility for this. Now, I don't hate the Gyeonggi province. That's what I wanted to say first. I don't hate the Gyeonggi province, okay, of South Korea. Their roads were very narrow, and they didn't have sidewalks where people could walk on, where pedestrians could walk on the sides of the roads. I've seen pictures of those roads in 2002, and that's true. And the Gyeonggi province revamped a lot of their road systems after this incident to prevent things like this from happening again. And I've seen pictures, and also the roads were not straight. The roads were very curvy, so it's very hard to see what was coming around you or what you were coming towards. That happened. So we talked about the road structure. The second thing is after the girls were unintentionally ran over, the soldiers got to the nearest parking lot that they could find, and they ran over and administered aid to these girls, and they were in tears trying to revive these girls back to life. That's how sad they were about that situation. And then adding on to that, there was another vehicle that was ahead of the specific armored vehicle, a U.S. military vehicle, that was trying to signal for them to stop. But there was faulty communications equipment and communications equipment that was not working, so people could not communicate very effectively. And the U.S. military examined that vehicle and they found faulty communications equipment. Okay, they did. Okay, we talked about that. Point number 2. Okay, point number 3. Okay, the third point is, after this incident happened, the U.S. military families compensated the girls' families. They compensated the girls' families, plus a lot of the U.S. military wives in that area, they organized raise money. They organized fundraising to build a statue dedicated to those 2 girls. Plus, a lot of the U.S. military wives in that area, they organized raise money. They organized fundraising to build a statue dedicated to those 2 girls. That happened, and there's photos that prove that. So those incidents happened. So let's talk about the trial. Let's talk about why did the United States and the U.S. military take control of the trial. Okay, well, by law of the U.S.-South Korea Forces Agreement, this was a training exercise. Yes, it occurred off U.S. military base, but the U.S.-South Korea Forces Agreement state when these training exercises occur and it involves U.S. military soldiers in a training exercise, the U.S. military has jurisdiction over that. Now, if the soldiers are just out on leave or they're having fun outside the U.S. military bases and it's not a training exercise, it's not business, then that falls under jurisdiction of the South Korean government. So the U.S. military was just following the law. Now, they could turn it over to the South Koreans, okay? But the reason the U.S. military did not, I firmly believe, is because Kim Dae-jung was president of South Korea at the time. I have nothing against Kim Dae-jung. He pardoned Chun Doo-won and No Tae-woo, and these were 2 guys that tried to kill him back in the 1980s. Kim Dae-jung still remained friends for a long time, even right when he died. Kim Dae-jung passed away in 2009. He was a good, God-fearing man, even though I wouldn't vote for him for president. But he remained friends with Donald Gregg. Donald Gregg was the U.S. ambassador to South Korea for a while. And they still remain friends. And Kim Dae-jung lived in the United States for 2 years. He lectured a lot at Harvard University. So I have nothing against him. It's just when he was in office, he gave North Korea a lot of money. Prime example, the first summit that occurred between him and Kim Jong-il cost $26,900,000. Kim Dae-jung and the South Korean government paid $26 million. Kim Jong-il only paid $900,000. Okay? That's number 1. Okay? Number 2, during that time, some North Korean defectors that were in South Korea were sent back to South Korea. Some were, but then many of them were silenced and were either forbidden or constantly encouraged to not speak out against the North Korean government, the current North Korean government. The North Korean defectors in South Korea at the time were treated kind of like criminals, basically. So the U.S. did not want to give the trial to Kim Dae-jung because they were not sure what was going to happen to their soldiers when they firmly believed their soldiers were innocent. And they looked at the tank and they found faulty communications equipment. They looked at the tank and they found that. It was faulty communications equipment. That's why they were found not guilty in the trial. So it was an unfortunate incident, but these soldiers did not intentionally run over these South Korean middle school girls. Unfortunate incident, but miscommunications between the drivers, what transpired. It was just an accident. There was no intentional homicide, intentional manslaughter, murder. There was no psychopathic behavior involved in this.
엄마 아빠가 잘해주지 못한 거 정말 미안해.